You know, we live in a world where there's plenty of things that make you scratch your head on a daily basis. The thing that's making me scratch my head today is actually people. I was in a store today, and as I make my way up to the checkout line, I hear a person's voice shouting at the top of their lungs at one of the workers. And the funny thing is when you're in that moment and there's somebody who's acting out or having a tantrum or behaving in a very erratic way out in public, kind of uncomfortable, You don't really know what to say, you don't really know what to do, and it all just feels kind of wrong. So the thing that really stuck out to me about this person going on this unhinged rant was what they were actually saying. And all they were really saying was, "What is wrong with you?" But they were screaming it. This completely over-the-top, hysterical voice screaming at this poor worker, "What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?" And I felt so bad for this employee that was taking the brunt of this abuse, is really what it was. Well, this is as I'm approaching the front of the store, so by the time I got there, there was a manager who had stepped in and was trying to de-escalate the situation. That's fine. It left me sitting there examining and thinking about this person who just came completely unglued and took it out on this poor, minimum wage store worker. And all I can think to myself is, you're screaming at her, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm essentially asking the same question, buddy. And it really makes you stop and think about people and how we behave when we're out in the world interacting with other people. And it makes me want to examine what exactly is wrong with you.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Now, not you, dear friend, but the you in general, the people of the world out there that decide in a moment's notice that I'm suddenly going to treat people like garbage for whatever reason. So here's what I think are maybe 5 of the things that are wrong with you. Number 1 is our expectations. I think that we set our expectations so high that if things don't show up exactly the way we wanted or the way we expected it to, suddenly it's a failure. And it's a mentality that takes place in a lot of sectors of our society where we set these bars and we say, well, if this thing doesn't meet this bar, then it's a failure. Maybe you got close to that goal, or maybe you got most of the project done that day. Some way, somehow, even though it didn't meet your expectations, it doesn't mean it was a failure. So the first thing that's wrong is I think your expectations are wrong. You gotta kind of be willing to bend a little and compromise a little.
What is wrong with you people?
Second thing that's wrong, I think, is our focus. I definitely think that we are focused on the wrong stuff. We've got this whole instant gratification mentality where, again, we started with what we expected, but what we expected was not really all that important. You see it sometimes when people are in crisis situations, that there's some root cause to their frustration or their anger, but they shift their focus away from the real issue and they just take it out and go off on someone. So I think we really do get focused on things that are kind of unimportant. If you see somebody that is screaming, "What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?" It's not the person you're screaming at who's the problem. If you haven't figured that out, then there's really a lot more we have to talk about.
Jesus, what is wrong with you people?
And speaking of the person that you're taking it out on, the third thing that I think is wrong with you is you don't have any empathy. Some people misidentify empathy. Empathy is not that you're feeling for them. That's sympathy. There's a big difference between sympathy and empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand that this feeling is legitimate from that person's point of view. Now, maybe the worker who's getting berated is having a hard time feeling any empathy for the customer who's ticked off, and that's probably with good reason. But what's really missing from the conversation and what's missing from the equation is the customer's ability to understand how it feels to be berated for something that's not your fault. I'm not sure exactly what it is that's triggered this in modern society. We're definitely seeing signs of people going back to a sort of "I'm in it for me" mentality. There seems to be this growing attitude of "I've got mine and I've got what's important to me. Screw you. You don't matter." Even though I'm kind of pegged that as the third thing that's wrong with people, honestly, that might be the most important one.
What is wrong wrong with you?
Well, the first thing that's wrong is we expect too much. The second thing that's wrong is what we're focused on. Thirdly, we don't have any empathy for anybody else. Fourth thing that's wrong with you is you're stubborn. I can sit here and I can say this to you. If you're the customer who's standing there screaming at this poor employee, what's wrong with you, what's wrong with you? I can make a very reasoned, calm, logical argument with you over all the reasons that we're discussing here. But you're too damn stubborn to want to listen. We get shut off from any feedback that doesn't align with what we want. Stubbornness has got to be one of the biggest barriers to civil conversation ever. There's one more thing at the end of this list that's kind of important to consider when you're talking about what is wrong with people. What leads people to have these types of negative interactions with others around? We know that our expectations are too high. We know that we're focused on the wrong things. We know that people really lack empathy for each other. We know that people are just too damn stubborn for their own good. But the last thing that's really wrong in this situation is actually nothing.
Wait, what?
The other four things that you've heard me list in this conversation are really great big generalizations. They don't apply to everybody. And even if they do apply to you, they don't apply to you all the time. I've painted this picture of people just being giant a-holes to each other all the time. And that's obviously not the world we live in. Interactions like this happen, but they sure as hell don't define us. There's nothing wrong with responding to your own emotional triggers in a way that's natural to you. You may be wrong in the moment. Doesn't mean that there's necessarily something wrong with you. I didn't hang around long enough to see the outcome after that manager stepped up and rescued the poor girl from the irate customer. But I honestly have to hope and believe that this person maybe did some soul searching later on, maybe did some personal reflection and think back on how they treated someone else that day because of whatever trivial thing it was that set them off in the first place. I hope it can kind of be an example for all of us to stop and think when you're in that moment and the adrenaline's pushing and your emotions are high, to just have that half a second of personal reflection and make a decision and not allow ourselves to be defined by these other four things that are generally wrong with us. Tell me what you think. Have you encountered situations like this out in the world, seeing customers take it out on the employees, or just people treating each other like crap in general? Are you brave enough to admit if you've ever been one of those people in that moment? Post it on down in the comments and let me know what you think about this topic. This is the kind of stuff I think about when I'm driving around. If you agree with me that this is an important list of things to think about when you're out and about in the world, then I challenge you, next time you go into a store or a restaurant for no good reason whatsoever, I want you to tell a worker that they're doing a great job and wish them a good day. Because if these things truly are wrong with people, then that's the kind of thing that can turn it around. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing and coming along for more of these conversations. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the road.